All right. Is this it? This dashboard on YouTube, I don't think is super useful. But we will see what happens. Let's see what it looks like over here. All right, live now. That's good. Cool. So hopefully, anyone watching this, if you put in something into the chat, nobody's here, but yeah, if you're listening to me now, you're listening to the recording. All right, well, I guess I'll just wait for a little bit. Let's try the other end of things too. I need to be in that class right now. Let's go to collaborate. In the past, when I've used this, everyone's been able to figure it out. So hopefully this is fine. I wonder if I should get a cup of coffee before we start. Hey Eli. Thanks for the subscription. Let's see. Later. Oh, cool. We got some people here. This is good. Hey, can you guys hear me, Caleb and Johan?
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. So, I mean, it's going to take a while for people to filter in, but how are you guys doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. I just had plumbing done in my house like 2 hours ago, so I'm having really bad allergies and my eyes are killing me. Other than that, everything's pretty easy.
Nice. How about you, Caleb? Are you here? And I see also Matt. They might be getting up to get a beer right now. All right, cool.
So how's this thing with YouTube working?
So if you go over to the course page right now, you'll see me. You'll see the camera on my office and my screen, which is what I'm actually streaming right now. So basically, the hope is that the YouTube stream will be my way to sort of address the class all at once, and the collaborate room will be your space for interacting with each other. Let's see. I've got to fiddle around with the breakout groups too. So right now, it's only letting me do 2 groups in the breakout, but that'll change once more people join us. Yeah, so the answer to your question, was that Johan asking me the question?
Yep.
Cool. The YouTube stream is sort of me speaking out into the ether. It'll be recorded, so you guys are sort of automatically getting lecture recorded. This class, I'm going to try and go pretty light on lecture because people don't really learn math by listening. But occasionally, we'll work through a bunch of problems and something will come up that I'll see coming up in a bunch of the breakout groups. And I might go to the live stream and give some indication. I got my Tommy Wiseau. Use something like that to indicate, hey, everyone, let's look at the whiteboard together. And then on the YouTube stream, I'll be able to go to my whiteboard and draw out something that I want the entire class to see. So most of the time, the YouTube stream during class is only really going to be interesting some of the times, but I think it's going to allow us to cut down on some of the transaction costs involved in starting and stopping breakout groups.
Alrighty. Yeah, I was wondering how, oh, there's like this echo, by the way. I hear myself.
Oh, sorry. Let me find my headphones. Let me adjust my sound settings. Make sure we got this. That seems fine. Cool. Could try asking your question again, Johan? Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, so that's something I'll talk about later today also, is because math is something that works really nice on paper, but we're not in a physical space, so we can't really use paper, or it'll be tough to do that. So one thing we're going to try and do with this semester is kind of learn to do more computer math, more math on the computer, which involves its own set of weird hurdles. But we'll also be using the whiteboard, and it will probably be weird, just like it was for your friend. But I'm hoping with the YouTube stream, it'll be more like three students sharing a piece of paper and a chat room uh, inside of a class where lecturer can speak to everyone at once. We'll see how it goes. We're going to be experimental here, so feedback is hugely appreciated. Yeah, that's, I think, going to be the weirdest part. I'm watching myself right now from, I think, about 5 seconds ago. So let's see it. Oh, okay. Cool. I am getting questions through on YouTube. There should be a live stream now. Let me go back to sharing my screen. So if you see, hopefully you see on me on YouTube, if you click the channel thing, or hopefully you can get to the channel through the class blog or through Blackboard. When you go to the channel main page, you'll see it. Cool. All right, cool. All right, we got 12 people there. Let's see. We got people on YouTube. The YouTube dashboard, this is the first time I'm using it, and it's not really telling me anything. All right, I'm gonna close that tab. So, Megan, I don't think I answered your question. Megan asked on YouTube, where's the class? So part of it is exactly where you are right now. And then the part where you're going to be interacting more with your classmates, although you guys can absolutely interact in the chat box on YouTube also. That's probably, well, we'll figure stuff out. Like I said, this is an ongoing experiment. So in Blackboard, you go to the class, and in the left-hand side on the sidebar, mine's always going to look a little bit different than yours. But you should see something like this. The online classroom is going to be the interaction part. The class YouTube channel is going to be the class stream overall. So in Collaborate, it is loading that. I think this link to the stream is going to, in new window. Okay, that's fine. All right. That's reasonable. So the online classroom, Let me just make sure. Megan, I hope you can see what I'm doing. If not, let me know. So go into the course room, and when you get there, it's going to look something like this. Thank you. Whoever took charge and muted me in Blackboard, that's another thing that's going to be weird. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen by the end of the semester. We'll get better by the end of the semester, but yeah, having, I think the Collaborate audio for me should be like 4 seconds ahead of the YouTube audio. So yeah, it's probably good for me to be muted in here. Yes, Megan. So if you have me in YouTube, you should have the audio there. Yes. Yes, with a Y. I'm muted here and on audio on YouTube. Otherwise, you'd hear me first here and then second on YouTube. All right. Cool. So this is good. I'm liking what I'm seeing on Blackboard. You guys are doing a good job of taking charge and being self-governing people, which is perfect. Let me just check really quickly. What do I want to be looking at? Let's see how many users I've got. I want to make sure I've got the right amount of people in here. 28. Link for the stream. Yeah. This should be the link to the stream. I'm going to drop into Blackboard right now. Oh, cool. Anne actually beat me to it. Great. And we've got 41. That would be 41 including me. Wow, this is going to be a big class. So, I know I've gotten some emails. Some people aren't going to be able to make the first class. They got other things going on. That's fine. In general, the way to think about this stuff, class, is you got opportunity costs. Sometimes something comes up that is more important than class. By all means, navigate your opportunity costs on your own. If it's worth the cost, then absolutely do that. So Jennifer, today is going to be a little bit weird. Oh. All right, we'll figure this out, right? So it's a big experiment. What I envision for a typical class is going to be mostly we just use Collaborate in small groups. So sometimes I'll do something like post some questions onto the class blog, and then we'll start up here and go into breakout groups. Let's see, will give us up to 14 groups. Cool. So we can figure out that stuff later on. We're not going to try messing around with it too much right now. But right now I also have it set, which so far is actually really paying off. I've given you guys moderator status by default. So when you come in here, you could cause mayhem and be a jerk, but you guys are adults and you're here to learn. So, fingers crossed that works out. So you guys can kind of self-manage here if I need to be on the YouTube stream sort of addressing everyone. But the big idea is YouTube lets me talk to the whole class. Collaborate is really good with small groups, and I want this class to mostly be small groups. I want most of the activity to be on your part, because math lectures suck. It just doesn't go well. Sometimes I need to communicate some content, but more often it's going to be easier to say, hey, watch these 3 videos before next class. That said, today is a weird day, not just because we're figuring this stuff out for the very first time, but also because it's syllabus day. Let's find the syllabus to this class. So let's see, we're going to go through that. Then we're going to move to the whiteboard, do some housekeeping, make some general first day of class statements. So probably kind of bounce back and forth a little bit. So you should be able to find your copy of the syllabus. If you go into Blackboard to course information, there'll be a PDF down here. Also, as long as we've got it in front of us, the link to the Khan Academy classroom. Usually the way I do this class is I've got the Khan Academy system for homework, and it doesn't really perfectly line up with the stuff we want to talk about because we're a math econ class. But Khan Academy has a pretty good system for just general math stuff. So sometimes it's covering tools that we don't use, like sine and cosine and tangent. And sometimes it's not talking about things that I would like to have, like supply and demand. They've got some micro econ videos, but they don't have the homework that I want. So an in-person class, I can do stuff like give you guys an assignment on a piece of paper and add that into the Khan Academy grades. So I'm going to be figuring stuff out sort of as we go, and we'll be adjusting. So thanks in advance for your patience. Let's go back to the syllabus. You know, most of the stuff is written down, so we don't need to spend too much going through the nitty-gritty. But let me kind of draw your attention to some of the highlights. So most of you guys are already here, which is perfect. This is a synchronous class. We will be using the times that we've been scheduled. This is our way to say we're blocking off some time for interacting, for working with each other. So unlike an asynchronous class where you're mostly off by yourself, for 250, we're mostly going to be, I want you to be doing more talking in a normal class than I do. Because you learn better when you're working your brain than when I'm working my brain. Office hours we're going to do through the YouTube live stream, assuming it works. So there, it'll be a little bit more open-ended. It will be the chat box on YouTube. If you aren't able to put stuff into that chat box, if you have some sort of issues with Google accounts or something like that, let me know so I can try and figure out some way to try to have some other system. But you know, we're again making our best doing this stuff online. So office hours are basically going to be after this class, are going to be the ones you're most interested in. And then also during this class period on Mondays and Wednesdays, which is going to be before my other synchronous class, which runs from 1:30 till 2:45. So basically 4 days a week for 3-ish hours, I'm just going to be streaming on YouTube. Sometimes it's going to be interesting, sometimes it's going to be boring, but I will be here. All right, let's talk about the class itself. So basically, this class is math for econ. We're going to be learning some basic mathematical tools. Some of the stuff you will have seen before, but basically we're going to be running through pre-calc into some relatively tricky calculus stuff, some Calc 1 stuff, basically. So we basically want to be starting with using mathematical tools to tell stories, and then from there building up to being able to use calculus to solve optimization problems, partly as a way of economic modeling, right? So thinking about what does it mean when a firm minimizes costs or when a monopoly maximizes profits. If we get a question, in general, absolutely interrupt me. I'm looking for you guys to interrupt me. And if you want to say something, just kind of make some sounds, and I'm just I've tuned myself, my brain, so when I hear some rustling in the background, I try to ask if there's a question. Is there a question? Okay, that might have just been innocent rustling. Is this a question? Let me see what's going on. Someone might have left their microphone near their computer speaker. Cool, we got something here. Let me try and address this. Ooh, okay, that helped. All right, cool. And this is another good reason to have you guys be moderators in Blackboard. If you start to hear feedback like that, if you go to this screen, which if you're watching the YouTube stream, yeah. So if you see something like that and you see a little microphone next to someone's thing, it might be a good idea just to mute them, right? So you might be sharing your audio and getting some feedback like that. Headphones help, so it's worth investing in some good headphones. But we'll figure it out. This is all of us building some life skills for our post-COVID future. All right, back to the syllabus. So basically where I'm going to end this class, or where I expect to end this class, is with Lagrangian optimization. Now, given the nature of this semester, I might actually be able to get in a little bit more than I usually get in, so I might do more with matrix algebra by kind of skipping a little bit more of the hands-on stuff, right? So a lot of this stuff, you're going to work hard on your algebra skills, but since you're going to be on a computer anyways, well, we might just, use our friend Wolfram Alpha and get them to do stuff for us. All right, so if we got something like minimize some cost function where it is x squared plus 24x minus 17. We're going to build the tools to do this by pen and paper, but knowing that this means you've got an exponent of 2, knowing how to type the math and then plug it into something like Wolfram means that, well, we can get the computer to do the hard work for us. So we will try and do some of that. So it's, again, new territory. Back to the syllabus again. Also, just a general point. Some of you guys have had me before. My MO in a class is there's me and there's 30 people and we kind of have some back and forth. I'm learning how to do that online. It's a weird thing, which is why I want sort of multiple channels for you guys to be interacting with me. It is a little bit easier if you guys use your audio to ask questions, because that allows me to be off on some other screen. So again, turn your mic on and interrupt at any point. And yeah, whatever, we'll figure this stuff out. So course requirements. Let me switch over to the whiteboard. And yeah, this will be fine. So what do we got here? This guy needs a name, by the way. He just came home with me yesterday. Clear my space. Here. So normally, I make this book a requirement. This is the Sholmes Outline Introduction to Mathematical Economics. There are other ones somewhere around here. I've got a microecon one that is also good. And what these do is they'll give you, it doesn't actually matter that you can read anything specific, but it gives you a whole bunch of problems that have been worked through in mathematical economics. So where this is really useful is sometimes you're looking at a new type of problem and you don't even know where to start. If you can just literally hand copy what is in this book, it's a way for you to see the form of the right answer. So sometimes that can be really helpful. sorry, I'm hearing chat noises and making sure I've got that also. Actually, let me I have a computer over here also, which will hopefully allow me to interact a little bit more easily. Actually, let's see. I'm not going to do that right now, but we'll figure out how to make use of this corner computer for more interaction. So, course materials. The Sholmes Guide is really useful and it's cheap, which is why I normally make it the required thing, because it sort of gives us in the first few chapters a good outline of what we need and examples of the questions. It's not like a normal textbook, but it's also really cheap. So I'd highly recommend this, but I'm not requiring anything. All I'm requiring is that you be willing to do the work and Google stuff once in a while. Some other things that I think are really useful is, I forgot his name, Larry Gonick. Larry Gonick has a couple books, one on algebra, one on calculus, and I think he does a really nice job of illustrating the concepts here. So we're going to be looking at a lot of calculus in this class, and he's got sort of these nice cartoon visualizations about how to think through these problems that I think are fun, but I also think he does a really good job explaining the stuff. And again, these are really cheap. This one, the list price on the barcode is 20 bucks, so you can almost certainly find a used copy for like 10 bucks. So Sholmes Guide gives us problems and shows us how to do them because it does all of them. And let me just also give you a piece of advice when you're studying. It doesn't really help you much to look at answers. Walking through answers to a problem you don't know how to solve is really useful, but once you know how to solve a problem, you really need to actually try to solve it yourself the hard way. So if you're using the Sholmes Guide, the thing to do is to just cover it up. By the way, can you guys hear me all right when I'm on the other side of the classroom? Yeah. Exona, am I pronouncing your name right? You've got exactly the right idea. All right. Cool. We'll go if need help in understanding a problem, if we struggle with it. We'll be entering each of the break-off rooms. Yeah, so Eli, that's a really good question. So we're going to be figuring this out, but basically what I'm going to need to figure out really is some way, in the way that I've got this one directional stream from me to you, I need something coming in from everyone to me. So the YouTube chat box might be useful for that. Let me actually try this. YouTube living life on the margin. So I'll try and keep, I've got a computer in the back here. I'll try and keep that open to the YouTube screen so I can see everything. Cool. You guys are interacting with each other, which is perfect. So to Eli's question, if you need my help with something during the class, I'll figure out a way for you to be able to get my attention, and then I'll flip over to Blackboard and start helping you and your group. Usually what I'll be doing, the way a normal class goes, let's see, am I looking at this? So can you guys read the stuff on the whiteboard, or is it kind of out of focus? Feedback. All right, you guys are sharing links. In any case, very out of focus. Yeah, I think I might need to invest in a better camera. I think that this thing is actually really good at like a moderate distance, but I'm trying to also give something like a full class, and also its USB cord isn't really long enough to get closer. Cool. I will work on that. In the meantime, it's a prop. It's a thing that I'm going to point to, but I'm going to be reading the important things anyway. So we're not going to worry too much there. Cool. So we're still going through the syllabus. Again, those of you who've had me know that I kind of take a roundabout path to anything. I'm a circuitous speaker. Natalie, you got a question? Or I might be mispronouncing your name. Ooh. Okay, that is helpful to know, Mike. I'll experiment with that over the coming week. Oh, yes. The other thing I was thinking about before I forget. So someone had their mic on, which could very well be because someone was asking me a question. A really useful way to get my attention in Blackboard is you'll see at the bottom of your screen those 4 little icons. One to mute yourself, one to turn your camera on and off, and then a raise hand button. So using the raise hand button is probably the best way to let me know you want to ask a question. Megan, go ahead and ask away. Oh, by all means, perfect. That's exactly what we're trying to do today. And then I'm also seeing in the chat, boost mic sensitivity on YouTube. Yeah, I'll fiddle around with that stuff also. Cool. So actually, let me start writing myself notes. Check audio, stream quality. All right. Still here. Cool. It's on the other side of my whiteboard. So back to the syllabus. We're talking about materials. So I was talking about books. The Schoen's Guide, like I said, is nice for seeing how to work through problems. Gonic is nice for explanations on algebra and calculus. Also really useful, especially for this class, is something like a mathematical economics textbook. Alpha Chang, this is the one that I used in undergrad. This is a really good textbook that is focused on the econ and the math. And this is a super old edition. You should be able to find this for like $5 or $10 now. Another popular one I saw just this morning is Simon and Bloom. This is a little bit more serious. Actually, both of these are kind of a little bit heavier duty than what we are going to be mostly focused on in this class. But they are useful, mostly because they're providing not just the math, but also the econ and how to use them together. And that's sort of a gap that I'm going to be trying to fill in this class. I would, assign something like this, but assigning it through the bookstore, they said, oh, you're going to use the newest edition, and the newest edition of this is like $1 million. So it's much easier for me to just say, look, I'm not going to require it, but I recommend it. The first one, the Schoen's Guide, Introduction to Mathematical Economics. That was, I think, the first one I mentioned. Also really excellent Larry Gonick cartoon guide to calculus and algebra. Larry Gonick, really cool guy. Actually, I don't know if he's a cool guy. Makes really cool books. He might be a jerk. But he's got all kinds of cartoon guides that I really like. You've got the Cartoon Introduction to Statistics by, actually, this is Grady Klein. This is a different cartoon intro. But Larry Gonick, his History of the World, cartoon history of the world, really, really good. We're not going to use that in this class, but calculus and algebra, both of these highly recommended. And then for mathematical econ, what is this? Fundamental Methods of Mathematical Economics by Alpha Chang, Chiang. Where's his name? Alpha Chang. Yeah, so to Johan's question, we're not going to go terribly deeply into multivariate. We're not going to be doing Haitians and Jacobians and all that stuff. We might, in this class, maybe I'll make like an optional unit for more linear algebra stuff. I might sort of use that to tie into my Monday, Wednesday class, which is in R. So I might do some stuff related to linear algebra on the computer, not so much, by hand, which is cumbersome and slow, and is kind of throwing a lot of things at most students that they aren't ready for. My goal is to try and get all of you guys thinking more mathematically, right? That's sort of the big idea. I want you to be thinking about mathematics as this tool that has specific things that you might know are out there, or that there is some place to find some way to solve a problem mathematically. You don't necessarily need to be mathematicians by the end of this class. Another book I really like, which got me through, no, I'm not going to find it. Book I like that got me through grad school was the VNR Encyclopedia of Mathematics. Yeah, linear algebra is really cool. It's something that I only really realized a lot later in my studies, how cool math is. That said, I think most of you guys are in a similar situation to what I was as an undergrad, of trying to stay away from math because there were all these warning signs, people saying, hey, this is scary. But it really doesn't have to be that scary. That said, if you don't have a lot of mathematical tools already, it doesn't really help to throw you into the deep end. So this class is going to be more about understanding, more about quick thinking, and actually, let me just mention this. Actually, I'm going to sort of erase as I go. My whiteboard, another nice thing about having a big whiteboard is it works as my memory. My memory is all over the place, right? So I just have to figure out how to work with that, and a whiteboard is a good way to do that. So we've mentioned Khan Academy. There should be a link in Blackboard to get to that. That is also one of our resources. Like I said, it's good for the mathy stuff, less good for the math and econ stuff. And actually, before I go too far back on track, also my stack of books. Here's an old edition. Here's a newer edition of a general math book, The Nature of Mathematics by Carl Smith. I like these sorts of books. This goes through all kinds of stuff. The nature of problem solving, and it goes all the way up, nature of counting, to calculus, and voting and apportionment. There's some cool mathematics involved in how you think about democracy, which we're not going to touch on in this class, but if you guys remind me at some point, I'll point you towards some interesting stuff about the mathematics of democracy. Some probability, some stats, some graphing. This class, we're definitely going to be doing a lot of graphing. So what's nice about having a book like this, and again, you find a cheap $20 edition on Amazon, is it just kind of bundles everything for you in one place. Cool. So, Khan Academy, that's another tool we're going to be using. These books that I just described, and that you can watch the, if you missed it just now, this live stream on YouTube is going to be recorded, so you can go back and rewatch it later. And then the internet is just full of advice on what's a good cheap book to learn some math from. So I like a really general math book. I like some econ math books. I like some more specific calc stuff. There are a lot of things that are useful. I'm not requiring anything specific. Yeah, calc and linear algebra notes will be helpful here. We're not, let me also say on that point, so when I took calculus as a student, we're doing all these theorems, we're proving everything really rigorously, and I think there's something really to be said for that. But at the same time, we're going to be sort of a step or two back from that. We're not going to really be rooting around in the details that much. We'll occasionally talk through a proof, but we're going to be more concerned with using it. We're going to be lazy economists here. We're going to say, let's trust the mathematicians. We're specializing our labor. the mathematicians are doing all the median value theorem and sandwich stuff and epsilon and all those things. And we're just going to kind of use their tools to hack away at telling economic stories. So your calc notes are going to help you to see deeper than we're actually going to be getting into in this class, but by all means go deeper. And also, before I forget, another really good one. This actually warrants switching to my screen. One of my favorite YouTube channels is 3 Blue, 1 Brown. And we will be at various points watching videos from his Essence of Calculus series, which is excellent. Still no more messages there. I don't, he might have worn a bow tie. He looks super young. I don't know who the bow tie guy is. This is 3 Blue, 1 Brown. Yeah, this is what he looks like. 3 Blue, 1 Brown, super awesome. Another thing, by the way, speaking of the course blog, is feel free to share cool videos you come across. So if you find something neat like a 3 Blue, 1 Brown video, feel free to share it with your classmates, especially if you think it's going to be useful. I'm going to search for Michael Van Bjornson, but let me go back to the whiteboard. All right, cool. There's something for me to look up. Yeah, so that's a good idea. Let me get rid of this side of my whiteboard, talk through some general stuff, and then, yeah, let's try the breakout group stuff. I think that's a good spot. So we'll do breakout groups and introduce each other in just a second. And hopefully that will give you a chance to tell me how to pronounce your name. Cool. So normally in this class, what I would have is you guys would be in a room, you'd be near each other, you'd be less than 6 feet apart from someone. And a typical class, I might say, hey, we're going to talk about something new. We're going to talk about symbolic logic. And I'd introduce some stuff. I'd put it up on the whiteboard. And we'd sort of have a traditional lecture. But I'd sort of only do about 20 minutes of it. And then I'd say, here's some problems. Start working through those problems with your neighbor. So then you would look at the person next to you, you pull out some paper, you try and figure out the answer to the questions that I put up on the whiteboard. Sometimes they'd be really easy. Sometimes they'd be trick questions. Sometimes they'd be really hard. And you'd spend a lot of time interacting. And then I'd just kind of wander through the class looking over people's shoulders and finding out what people were having a difficult time with. And then occasionally I might say, hey, everyone's making the same mistake here. Everyone pull it together. Let's let me walk you through this and explain what's going on. And that's sort of what I hope the YouTube stream will do for us. Ooh. Is this YouTube stream that lagging? I'm looking at my screen over here, and it looks like it's going kind of far behind. Hopefully the recording's all right. Otherwise, I might have to make a separate recording and just upload it. In any case, normally, that's what I want out of this class. Since we're online, it's going to be different. So the most important way it's going to be different is I need you guys to sort of be autonomous and also disciplined. Right? So I need you guys to be staying on top of stuff, reaching out to each other. There's not going to be so much automatic stuff, right? With a regular class, you got people looking at you, watching you. Oh, cool, thanks. In a normal class, you got human beings there, and our primate brains look at that and say, hey, I'm going to be doing what the people around me are doing. And so you get to work, and it's really automatic. Here, you're alone in a room. There's probably no one in your house also working on this stuff. It's going to be a lot harder. So you have to really build your discipline. Let me go a little off. Something that I have found really helpful for me. So I'm sure I'm going to share some links on the class blog for everyone. But something that I've really enjoyed is The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. Part of my morning routine is I look at the day's entry. So today is the 27th, laugh or cry. And I just type out this into my journal. doing something like that. This is sort of helping me to stay a little bit more grounded. And it's just sort of a nice, easy little thing every day that just kind of helps me work with my brain being in an isolated state. Another really good thing is CGP Grey. He has a great video he put up at the beginning of the pandemic called Spaceship U. I think that's what it's called. Again, I'm going to share a bunch of stuff on Blackboard. But you no longer have this automatic thing where you're just with people and it's easy, right? We're in a constrained bandwidth environment at the very least, right? So I have to go back and forth across my room to see the chat or to look at the screen and see if that's working. There's a lot of things going on. You guys are chatting with each other, which is great. But I'm also thinking, hey, is someone asking a question? It's not as simple as in a classroom. I can just see you're leaning to the person next to you, whispering something. There, that's great, right? You guys are sharing information, and I can automatically see that I don't need to intervene, right? Here, like I said, we're figuring it out. So that's one big way this is going to be different than a normal class. Another thing is, in the normal class, it'd be a little bit more emphasis on remembering stuff. So we'd be dealing with tools, and we'll, a normal midterm in this class, you'd have a one-page cheat sheet. You'd have a bunch of stuff on there, so you're not super memorizing stuff. That is an excellent point. All right, Johan, could you do me a favor and hit the raise hand button? I just want to see that it has a different noise. Perfect. All right, cool. It does make a different noise. So this is my favorite, one of my favorite things is the idea of emergence. And I'd like to just wave a book at you. That's kind of my style. Here's a book. This book talks about emergence also. Emergence is my favorite thing in economics. Might be easier to think about in, say, the context of English. The English language is an emergent order. You know what I'm saying because my words have meaning to you, but the words have meaning in this system that is hard to disentangle, and it's something that's changing over time. So we get new rules of behavior, we get new norms of etiquette, we get new uses of languages, we get new ways of doing things in the economy. We got all these different things that make up the world we live in, and it emerges organically. So what we just witnessed is a norm in this class that the raise hand sound is how to get me thinking that you're asking a question. So now if I hear the chat sound, it's no big deal. I can ignore that and focus here and let you guys interact with each other. Awesome. Good stuff. We're going to have a lot more emergence as we figure out this class. And again, feedback, super helpful here. So thank you very much. Memory. In the normal class, you'd have the cheat sheet, which would be a lot of your memory, but you'd have to remember how to apply stuff. In this version, one tool that we have access to that I'm not going to use here is ProctorU. ProctorU is sort of the best available way to do a fair exam in an asynchronous fashion. Since we're synchronous, I think it's going to be easier to just say, we'll do the exam during class time. But it also means that we're sort of inherently doing an exam under very different circumstances than normal. Right? It's not a regular exam. So I'm going to have to sort of think about it differently and expect different things and set it up differently so that it's going to be a fair comparison, even though we're all doing it in very different circumstances. So I'm going to make an emphasis on shifting away from testing your memory and towards having you think through stuff. Right? You're going to have to do some hard problem solving, which will hopefully mean some room for creativity, but the cost is that you're going to also have to be comfortable with uncertainty. There's no such thing as being comfortable with uncertainty, but you'll be more comfortable with uncertainty. We have already mentioned this. It is a good idea to have paper with you, right? So math is just easier if you can just write it on stuff with pen and paper. But it's hard for me to do like a quiz where I say, write on this piece of paper some answers, and then I'm going to grade them by hand You could take a photo with your phone and email it to me, but that creates its own problems. So we're going to kind of be de-emphasizing paper somewhat in this class. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to go. We might still end up having you guys send a lot of digital photos of paper, but we'll figure that out. But we are going to have more, at least attempts at trying to do math on the computer. So coming up in the class, our first unit after we do an econ review is going to be symbolic logic, which we will do in a spreadsheet formula, in a spreadsheet program. I'll be using LibreOffice or Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel or whatever you've got handy. And then Wolfram. I put up a joke post when I was setting up the course blog, casually explained, did a video, calculus explained in 20 seconds. And he just, all right, so here's a calculus problem. And you open up Wolfram Alpha and you type it in and you solve the problem. So we have to acknowledge that we've got this temptation at the very least. We all have access to Wolfram Alpha. So whenever I ask you solve this problem, you're always going to be able to just type it into your computer because we're doing the class on the computer. So timed quizzes, I already broke my rule, Johan. Yeah, so exams is easy to do something on a limited time frame. We might try Microsoft Teams. I think that the school has paid for us to have access to that. So, like I said, we'll experiment. Cool. All right, so I'll look into that also. We'll see how nicely it plays with my computer also. I'm a contrarian, so I run Linux. So sometimes stuff doesn't work nicely, but Microsoft has been really good at online tools lately. So yeah, we'll check them out. We might try next class on Microsoft Teams. Yeah, if that actually makes it easier to do breakout groups and also an all-at-once channel, yeah, I'm going to look into that. That's cool. Let me also add that to my list. MS Teams. Cool. So given that we're doing this class always one tab away from Wolfram Alpha, we might as well take advantage and try and think more about doing computer math. So learning how to type math is kind of a pain. The sort of equations that we normally deal with in this class are relatively easy to type, but stuff can get messy when you're trying to make a fraction because it's always just like one key press at a time to string together a whole equation. But think about that. Think about how to get math into the computer. That's going to be a helpful thing, and that's a helpful skill. I had to learn how to type math in grad school. You guys are going to be sort of forced to learn how to type math a little bit earlier, but it's going to make your life that much easier if you want to go deeper into this stuff. Right? So if you want to, say, learn the underlying, what's the word I'm looking for? You want to learn the underlying theory behind statistical questions, or you want to learn how to build a neural network, you're going to have to be doing some of the math. You're going to have to be typing some math into the computer. You're not going to be inverting a matrix by hand, but it's helpful to know what the concept is, and it's more helpful to be able to type it into the computer. So we will be seeing some of that, even though traditionally this is a paper and pen class. So this class is going to be different than normal in ways that we don't totally know yet. All right, cool. So we got 15 minutes. Let's do the breakouts. So I'll do some other stuff later on, or I might just record a video later on. I was going to talk about the Y exercise. We're still actually technically going through the syllabus, but most of that is straightforward. So I'm going to go and split us up into breakout groups. I'm going to randomly allocate you. So once you're in your breakout group, just introduce yourself. Tell each other who you are, what you're up to. Let's see, 14 groups, is that 3 to 4? That's pretty good. All right, cool. So go ahead and talk to each other. All right. So let's see. Right now, I think you guys should. Well, yeah, I know. I know you guys can still hear me through the YouTube stream. Uh, Although, actually, now that I think about it, the YouTube stream probably just caught up to. Oh, actually, it hasn't. My computer's behind. Whatever. Um. Oh, it's so weird seeing myself at different points in time in the same room. All right. Oh, I see. I will be in the main room. Cool. All right. We got breakout groups. So you guys look like you're talking. That is good. People are running into stuff. I'm going to go ahead and join this group. So Will, I think. Oh, here we go. Story in there. Update. Cool. Reconnecting. I'm going to go ahead and join a group. Go to group 7. This stuff, that's all rules and regulations. All right. Hey, can you guys hear me? Awesome. Howdy. How are you guys doing? So let's see. I know I got one name in here to learn how to pronounce. Still there? There I am. So, is it? It's not Exona. Is it something like Uzona? Oh, uh, sorry. Let me. Yeah. Let me mute myself. All right, if you're hearing me on YouTube, I'm muting myself on YouTube when I'm in one of the groups because otherwise past Rick starts speaking over present Rick, which present Rick doesn't like so much. So I'm going to mute myself again while I move into group 4. All right, so I'm going to do this. You guys keep chatting in the collaborate room. Keep messing around in Blackboard. Swap contact information. Make jokes. Introduce yourselves. All that stuff. It's kind of slow for me to go back and forth between different groups, which is why I like having the YouTube thing. Because if I wanted to go out of breakout groups, this would take like 5 minutes out of our 15-minute class. What I'm hearing so far is Microsoft Teams might be the way to go, but again, we'll see. So I'm going to kind of call this me transitioning out of classroom mode and shortly into office hours mode. So what I'm going to do, and actually I think also what I'm going to do, I don't know what I'm going to do in the future. I'll figure it out. But what I'm going to do soon, let's see, do I close the breakout groups and address everyone? Nah. If you guys are hearing me through YouTube, that's great. Are you guys hearing me through YouTube, or am I just speaking into the ether now? Yeah, I gotta get used to it too. So I'm gonna leave you guys in the breakout rooms. Keep chatting with each other. Keep being human. All that's cool. And then I'm going to end the stream here. This will be sort of a separate recording, and then I'm going to restart the stream for office hours. And actually, I might even also make a really boring start of office hours and kind of finish going through the syllabus. Actually, let me do it here. This is our class recording, so I'll relabel the stream recording afterwards as first class. I'm just going to really quickly skim through the syllabus and leave you guys to read the specifics. And then also kind of jump back and forth over here. YouTube. All right, cool. So you guys keep speaking with each other. Feel free to mute me right now and then come back to this recording afterwards. So policies, most of these policies are straightforward. I'll let you guys ask questions if they come up. So you guys might care about my low midterm grade policy. I'm sure that'll come up in a future class, so I'm going to skip talking about it right now. Most of these policies are pretty straightforward, although some of them are also out of date. Like, of course, you guys are using computer in class. This is sort of the in-person class leftover policy. Also, you are, of course, recording lecture because I'm recording lecture. So let me talk about this stuff. So the grade, we're going to have a bunch of homework. That's most of the grade, or that's the biggest part of the grade, because just working is going to be the most important part. It's like learning to ride a bike. You can't learn to ride a bike by listening to someone. You got to do the work. Quizzes, we will do those usually in class. I agree with that point, Jennifer, by the way, about Blackboard being convenient because we're using it anyways. But again, we're going to try stuff. By the end of the semester, it all makes sense. Homework, 40% of your grade. Quizzes, 20% of your grade. Exams, 40%, with a bigger weight on the final exam because I care more about what you know at the end of the semester than what you know halfway through. I'm going to aim to schedule the midterm semester probably the week before whatever the last date to drop the class is, just so you have that at least sense before it's too late. The grades, normal grade stuff. Classes won't be canceled to snow days, but they might be canceled if there's a snowstorm and someone plows into the cable connection on my house or your house. So we'll see about that stuff. Attendance, this is a synchronous class, so I am expecting you guys to be here, although some days you're not going to be able to. It's not a big deal if you miss a class. Just make sure you're going back, catching up on the recordings, doing the work. Because if you miss the class and you don't make up for it, it's gonna bite you. Religious absences, let me know. I've already gotten some emails about this stuff. For contacting me, email is usually the best way, but also the class blog is going to be a good way for sort of informal back and forth. And of course, attending class and attending office hours. Disability Services Center, check. Actually, I think these links might be a little bit out of date. I should probably re-update this syllabus. If you search the Farmingdale website, you can find farmingdale.edu/disability Disability Services Center. If you're in that boat, let me know as soon as you can, and I'll create a section on Blackboard that treats you differently. Usually it's a bit of extra time on the exam, so I can make exceptions for the DSC folks. Don't cheat. So academic integrity, since we're in an online class, this is where it's going to be kind of weird. It's not really reasonable to expect the same sort of behavior as when you were in a class. So any one person, I can expect you to behave nicely. Guy, to your question, the blog is for all 4 of my classes this semester. It's sort of like having a water cooler outside of my office door. So that's for everyone. To the academic integrity policy, I'm expecting you guys to be, to have integrity. But at the same time, when you got 40 people, you don't get the same sort of a fair comparison when you just say, all right, guys, don't cheat. So the emphasis is going to be making the class more cheat resistant. Which is what I was saying earlier, more of an emphasis on being creative and applying stuff more so than getting the right answer. Because even though any one of you I can count on to not open up Wolfram Alpha, one of 40 people, I can't count on someone not to fall into that temptation. So I'm going to try and make it so that that doesn't turn into be a big deal. Stress. This is going to be a big, weird stress class. Stress semester. So this campus mental health services, absolutely take advantage of their services. You've already paid for them. They'll be able to refer you to other useful stuff. Student code of conduct basically boils down to don't be a jerk, don't rip each other off, all that stuff. Class outline, we'll talk about this in the future. It's not super important to get to it right now. Cool. That's the syllabus in a nutshell. The specifics, go ahead and read this over the weekend. Come in with any questions you've got. Next class, which will be Tuesday at the same time. And if you've got time and you want to hang out, I'm going to stop the stream and then restart it as office hours so that I can relabel this recording. Yeah, lots of tabs. To the lots of tabs thing. Really cool Firefox add-in one tab. I got a tab problem. You can see I've got 1,405 tabs in one tab since December. I'm bad with tabs, but one tab makes it so it's not draining my resources the way these tabs are. This is just a URL list, which is a lot easier. Cool. All right, so we got people working there. I'm going to go ahead and leave Collaborate now. and leave you guys to have it. You guys should be able to just kind of use that as you please. Cool. All right. So I'm going to end this stream and then immediately restart it. So it's going to be office hours. I think technically my office hours start at 1:30. I might go, yeah, I'm going to go refill my water and get something to eat. But I'll leave you with Skeleton Guy. Cool. So I will see you guys on Tuesday as far as class goes, and I will see you guys in the next few minutes in office hours. All right. Now we're in office hours. All right. Let's get our friend here set up. This guy. Oh, Mazel Tov. There we go. All right. Leave you with Skeleton Guy and Mr. Potato Man. I have some fresh tomatoes I'm going to go eat. Just me. This looks like the end. All right. Am I still streaming into the same thing? All right. Attention. That doesn't draw enough attention at all. Whatever. Let's something to read. There we go. There. All right. I'm gonna go get myself a tomato sandwich. Actually, you know what? Let me answer some questions first. Still trying to figure out how to join on Blackboard. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Share my screen. There we go. Can you guys hear me all right? Yeah, I've used Google Meet before. I don't remember how the breakout rooms worked. I was using Google Meet in the spring, and it was kind of all right. Um, but like I said, we're probably going to end up trying one of each eventually. So for Collaborate, if you go into Blackboard in our class, I've got a link in the sidebar. So that should do the trick for you. Ah, I know I'm not getting problems because I've got my headphones on. Okay, cool. So you click into online classroom, you go to course room, and that'll bring you over to this, join course room, and that'll open up the classroom. There might still be some people in here chatting. You guys are free to use this classroom as a shared space. The default is that you guys are in there as moderators. So you got a lot of power. Use it wisely. Hopefully it doesn't become a problem. I'm sure it won't. All right. Nope. Everyone left except for Ivan. All right. I'm going to leave Ivan. But that's hypothetically how you get into the class. Yeah, or through tools. Yeah, the whiteboard I'm gonna have to figure out. So actually, here's an economic lesson. Um, actually, two economic lessons. So this whiteboard was a 4 foot by 8 foot sheet of thrifty board, which works like whiteboard as long as you maintain it. But I don't have a big vehicle to move that, so it's snapped into several pieces. So I've got actually 3 chunks of stuff mounted onto my wall, which will do the trick for now. But the other part of this that's tough is I'm working right now with a webcam, and the webcam seems to be really good for relatively modest distance. It sort of is assuming that you are arm's length away from the camera, and it's tough. So the advantage of a whiteboard is that it's a lot more fluid. It's easy for me to interact. It's easy to get stuff up there, but the camera is not ideal. So I'm going to be looking into camera options, or I might use the smaller whiteboard I've got behind my desk, which worked okay for the summer classes, but kind of like having a big whiteboard, but we'll figure it out. More often, is going to be you guys working in Blackboard with each other, where a small screen-sized whiteboard is going to be more useful to you. So, yeah, doing math on a computer is tough, especially since we're so used to doing stuff, with pen and paper. And now we just kind of don't really have that option as nicely. Cool. So we got stuff to try. We got other stuff. Any of you guys got any questions while I'm here? So, what a typical office hours is going to look like, probably, is mostly me going into some sort of a program that I'm working with. So for the 390 students, office hours, a lot of the times I'll do like Tidy Tuesday stuff. So I might, typically office hours are just a professor sitting alone in a room, unless it's an exam week. And then it's a professor explaining a lot of stuff to a lot of students all at the same time. But for this semester, I'm going to use YouTube, so I'm just going to more often just kind of live stream my coding. Let's see, is that working right? There we go. So what I'm going to be doing later on. I mean, hopefully this first week or so we get more interaction. Um, so if you got questions, by all means ask. But if there's nothing going on, it's probably just going to be me sort of coding away at something. So actually, yeah, I should look over my syllabus for 390 since that's on Monday. I'm going to try and be careful not to accidentally, open up my email or anything on the stream. I really shouldn't do that. But in any case, we'll figure this out. And actually, I've heard Microsoft Teams might be okay for office hours also. But in the meantime, once I figure stuff out, we'll have stuff figured out. But until then, I'm just going to kind of hack away at some stuff. Eli's question, Econ Club. That's a good question. So, and actually another thing, let me also, I wonder if I can do this. Is that right? Huh. I think this might have become, I think I stopped streaming, but YouTube just made it part of the same thing. Whatever. All right. So this is going to be the day's 3-hour stream. So the Econ Club, I'm not really sure what it's going to look like. This is uncharted territory. So it is all virtual, certainly for fall. We'll see what happens in the spring, but the word from on high is clubs are not allowed to meet in person. I don't think you need to say you're not allowed to have them choose not to meet in person. The Econ Club is whatever the Econ Club wants it to be. It is another case of emergent order. So it really depends a lot on who is running the Econ Club. And right now, nobody's running the Econ Club. In the past, we've had some really enthusiastic and talented leaders who also knew their way around student government. And in those cases, they were able to get a lot of stuff done. This year, it's just a $1,000 budget. Yes, Eli, I think I did get your email about the Econ Club. I left it as unread because I wanted to respond to it more thoughtfully. Actually, I think I wanted to respond to it in a situation like this. So this is a good point. Let me also just really quickly say, I'm not sure how to, I don't think this works nicely live, but I'm sure you guys have seen YouTube comments before where someone will put in like a timestamp and that will allow you to link to something. So if you guys, when you're watching old recordings of a class and you say, hey, at 23 minutes and 48 seconds, Professor Rick gives a really good explanation of the first derivative or something like that, take advantage of that. Let's try and use all the functionality we can get out of YouTube. But couldn't figure it out. Blackboard link 250 and 390. Don't worry about it, Dan. I'm not expecting anyone to really be not absent. It's the first week. There's always messy stuff. That's right, and I'm still trying to answer Eli's question. What is the Econ Club? So this year, what I'm told is all the clubs get a $1,000 budget. I'm not sure exactly what you can spend that budget on. Obviously, you can't spend it on something like pizza because you can't meet to have pizza. I mean, maybe you could, I doubt this, but maybe you could deliver pizza to the members, 20 separate orders, but that would be weird. So you'd want to talk to someone in student government. They'll have a better idea about what you might be able to do with that budget, but there is a budget. I think probably a safe thing to expect is that you could use that budget for like a reading group. So as an example, especially for say the students in 390, you might be interested in say getting everyone a copy of a book like Mining the Social Web, or something to do with data science in R. You might create a book club. Yeah, that's not a problem, man. This is office hours. It's actually weird to even have 10 people in office hours. Johan, 390 is my Monday, Wednesday class that is R for data science and economics. If you're looking for another class, it is still open. There's still spots, and we are going to be dealing with R in that class. Let me go and actually see if I can find. I set this up as a whatchamacall. I'm going to show you a little bit of R while I'm here. So yeah, to the question of what's Econ Club, I need to find officers to be the new leaders of the Econ Club. But if someone's willing to take it over, then awesome. And if someone takes it over, it might just be that you got a thing on your resume that says you were the president of the Econ Club for a year, and you kind of just find a way to wrangle some people together to chat online a couple times a month. So it's hard to say what it's going to be. Let me go ahead and open up this. So here's a little bit of R. And let me also make sure I do this right. I think I need to go to documents. Learn. What have we got? COVID heat map. Work. Okay, cool. So what I'm doing right now is pulling down some data on COVID. I think this is the whatever that big data source is that they're doing. So this is something I did earlier in the summer with R. I'm just updating the data here. So this is the actual R stuff. Hopefully my screen and my audio are going the same. The stream is a little bit behind. Victoria, let me go back and check your question. Let me check Victoria, see. I'm having a little bit of troubles with Khan Academy right now, so if you click through the link, you should be attached to the class. Right now there are no assignments, so you shouldn't really see anything. 93 students, that's and who am I looking for? Victoria. Short memory today. Let's see. Victoria. I don't know. This is oh, there's fall 20. All right, cool. So the class exists. Oh, here's why I'm not seeing you. Sure, I'm just checking Victoria to make sure that you're in. Yes, cool. So Victoria, you are in the class. You are associated with the Khan Academy class. I've got to put stuff up there later, but right now you are totally on track. So Victoria, you're great. Eli, issues earlier, lost service. Okay. Mostly I kind of kept distracting myself, Eli, and never really got around to giving a coherent answer. So the Econ Club this year, student activity fee has been cut back a little bit. See, Victoria. So clubs get access to $1,000 budget. I think that what you could do with that is, say, run a book club. So you say, Econ Club members who sign up before such and such a date, we will buy you a copy of some cool book, which would be really cool for. Actually, it could be cool for $390 or $250 or really anyone. But like something you could do is say, get a copy of Doing Math with Python. Would be a good book club activity that you might do that would be useful for 250 students, where you use that Econ Club money to basically get the school to buy you some stuff, to buy you some books. So you do something like that as a book club. That's an activity. I think sort of the bare minimum to kind of keep the club existing is if we get a board of directors, student, 4 students, a president, a vice president, a treasurer, and a secretary, to basically hold meetings. which would be just, you set up a chat room and you take notes, you take minutes and say, hey, people met. And then maybe you just kind of have a chat room where you just, go back and forth and gossip about professors and help each other with homework. The previous econ club had a really successful thing where they would have study sessions before midterms, and they could get professors to show up to help students and answer questions and things like that. So just sort of informal interactions is informal online interactions is sort of what we're looking at for this year. All right, let me go back to fiddling around with R. Looks like we got our data updated. So for any 390 students who are here, this is a tool we're going to be spending a lot of time with. So Tidyverse is a library. Well, let's show you what R is. So R is a statistical computer programming language. It's basically a way to do what you might do in an Excel spreadsheet, but at a much larger scale. And you can do a lot more intricate stuff than you can do in Excel. So Excel is really nice as sort of a spot where you can deal with a few dozen numbers. R is a way to be able to potentially deal with millions of numbers. So it's a really good way to deal with large amounts of data. So let's see if this will work. Let's see, that's population. That should be fine. Oh, that's right. There we go. Let's see if this will work. There we go. So we load in our libraries. Libraries are just sets of code that someone else wrote. No, Dan, I'm not expecting anyone to have any experience with R for sure. Johan, I was looking at, sorry, let me get back to that window. I was looking at Doing Math with Python, or Math Adventures with Python is another cool one. Those just came to mind. There are a lot more books on Python than there are on R, but let's see if we can find a Doing Math with R. You could do something like, got a copy somewhere. Something like sabermetrics with R, analyzing baseball data with R. So that's a $50 book, but if you're the econ club, you might say, hey, we're going to run a book club, maybe in conjunction with the sports management club, and get the campus to buy you this $50 book. You buy a couple or you buy a dozen copies for the people in the book club, and you got something like that. All right, Dan, as long as you're here, I'm gonna use you as my foil. If you disappear, it's not a big deal. You got stuff to do, that's fine. This is just office hours. But in R, what I've got here is some code that I've already written, and then down here I've got the interpreter, the console for R. So down here is R actually doing stuff. So you can do stuff like, say, let me see if I can remember this. Right. Now, somewhere in my keyboard. There we go. All right. What was that? I've got a programmable keyboard, and I've been hiding things in it. So with something like R, you can name variables. So I just named a variable X and said it takes a value of 1. You can see that up here in the left. And I can do stuff like, say, multiply X times 2, and I get the result there. So you can do all kinds of like little things like that, which are boring in and of themselves, but when you build them up, you get a lot more. Right? So we run this line, and this loads an Excel sheet, which didn't work. I'm in the wrong spot. Let's go set working directory to go. Let's try that again. There we go, cool. So I just ran that little bit of line of code, and that took in this Excel spreadsheet, which contains population data. So now I've got this thing on R called POP, which holds population data for all 50 states and some regions, and I think Puerto Rico. And then I can change stuff about that, so I can make that a little bit more useful by changing the column names. And then I can filter out things like the Northeast, which I still have the Northeast in there, but I got rid of something. I don't remember exactly what this code did. Let's see, mutate state equals string remove. So I just cleaned up some of the text in the states, and then I got rid of anything where there wasn't a population. Create a new thing to negate. And then here's where really most of the meat is. So this line takes in a data file, it changes it around, it reshapes it, it renames some things, it filters out some stuff, and then it starts adding up COVID cases. It groups that by state, it arranges, it does a bunch of stuff to do with the case data. And then down here, I've got another thing that does stuff with the death data. And then I'm able to do the stuff that is more interesting, which is to make some plots. Let's see, I think this is the map I want. And then if I run this, it's going to work for me. Those are not subsettable. So this is what programming normally looks like, is you think, this will be fine, and you run it, and then it isn't fine. Cases, not subsettable. Data state. I got data. Oh, I know what's going on here. Map cases. Let's try this. Did it work? No. What is your deal? Group select as matrix heat map. Huh, this is a bummer. This worked before. Let me see what it looked like before. So the last time I ran this, which was in June, wow. Actually, that's June 15th. Let's look at deaths as of June 30th. So this picture is showing us normalized normalized COVID deaths arranged by date. So we start early at the bottom left, and then as we move to the right, we move forwards till June 30th. And basically what you see is any of these red spots are days where there was an abnormally high number of deaths for that state. Right? So if we say there's 1,000 deaths in New York, is that a big number or a small number? Well, it only really makes sense to think about it compared to New York. It wouldn't make sense to compare that directly to Alaska. But if you asked how many deaths did we get, compared to what last week's death rate was, that's a little bit more useful. So let me see if I can't get this to run. Sometimes I'm talking more than I normally would in office hours. So sometimes it's just going to be sort of me chunking away at this stuff. So let me see if I can't figure this out. There we go. this until July? Is that right? What month is it? It's the end of August. There should be more data than this. This is a moving average. Let me look at my code. So get the population data. This is just a handy little function, the negate. I've seen casually explained, Eli. I'm not sure if I've seen economics explained. Open up a new tab and see if there isn't something cool there. All right, let's look at this. So we got confirmed deaths, and that should be updated. Oh, you know what? I know what's going on. Okay. So I've got that time series, but I've got to update that time series. So let's go ahead and move from COVID, CSE, time series. What am I looking for? Confirmed US. Here. And then deaths. There we go. All right. So that should update that. Let's check this out again. So now, in cases, that's running. That's fine. Good. Deaths. We've got that data in. So now we've got the updated data. And if we look at time series plot of cases, ooh, there's that second wave they keep talking about. Yeah, you know what? You guys don't need to see Skeleton Man. Let's put him to the back. There we go. There's that second wave. Let's look at deaths. I think that's where our good news is. Death rate still a whole lot better than the end of April. Except for there. What state is that? So what am I looking at? I'm looking at deaths. So all that other code I had up top was basically taking the data in these first three columns, adding in the population data, calculating a moving average, and then normalizing that. So basically saying, compared to what is average in this data set, what do we get? So let's look at the bottom end. That's the deaths data. Still pretty low. How do I do this? So I take deaths and I say date see if this will work for me. Hey, that did work. Still just going to the end of July? All right. here's what I really want. So we do grouping by state. Man, what do we want? Actually, here's what I want. Group by, filter this, date greater than. Delaware. Huh. I think that's what's going on over here. I think Delaware. Is that right? I guess it's the normalized. So yeah, this is where we're getting the biggest for after the 20th. Was that June? Huh. I don't know how to interpret that, but that's what we got. There's Delaware. Let's look after the 25th. Delaware. This must be DC and Rhode Island. Oh. So this is a thing that we can do with R, is we can take a bit of data and try and sort through it. That can be a helpful thing to do. Now, let's see if I can make this heat map. Data, state. Select date, state, normalize. That should be fine. All right. Let's see. Let's try running it without that. I remember why I took that out. Root matrix, that should be fine. Next must be numeric. See what I get when I run this. That looks like a numeric matrix to me. Let's try running this bit. Did I copy the deaths right? Put in the cases, that should be fine. Ah, there we go. All right, that's what was wrong with that. Cool. That's updated. Heat map Cases, PNG. Closure not subsettable. That looks fine. Let's try without that. There we go. All right. So what is this? This is cases. So this is people getting sick, but not necessarily dying. And we've got, hard to tell. Let's see if I make this big. 12. What state would 12 be? Let's try and make, oh, that's why. Let's try and figure out. Ah, there we go. I know what's going on. There we go. All right. Cool. Hawaii. Hawaii is where we're seeing a relatively big spike in cases, apparently, compared to normal. Let's go ahead and find where's New York. New York down here. We had the worst of our stuff way back. Although our worst compared to our apparently normal, a little less intense. So, again, this graph, I should really reread the code to make more sense of it, but essentially what it's doing is starting January 29th, going forward to yesterday. We can see yesterday was a really bad day in North Dakota, really bad day in Hawaii. These colors are representing intensity of a normalized moving average. Let me show you what that means. So we got this data. Let's go ahead and re-import this data just to be safe. So this is the data that we pulled down from this repository, the CSSE. Let's see, if we go to COVID, is there a README? Johns Hopkins, that's what it is. Data repository by the Center for System Science and Engineering at Johns Hopkins. They've got their dashboard. They're telling us about data and their departments and all kinds of other stuff. We took their data, or I took their data, and this, whoops, I forget sometimes. Sometimes I think I'm in Vin, where J and K moves you up and down, but I'm not. So we took that data, we moved it around, we reshaped it, we filtered out some stuff, and then we added up the deaths in each state on each date, which rhymes, and that's important. We added those all up together because I think it was broken down by county. So basically we're adding up all the counties to make this state level data instead of region level data, whatever it was. And actually, by the way, let's go ahead and open up a new window for the 390 students. GitHub is a really useful tool for collaborating with people. So you can actually find my code for this and the old stuff, the old data, on my GitHub, rickweber/COVID_heatmap. And you can actually walk through and see what's in there. What does it look like if we, nah, it's not going to tell us. So we take that data, we roll apply. So we are doing for 2, there we go, there's our moving average. So we're calculating new deaths. I forget exactly what I was doing with that. We add in the population data, we make it deaths per capita, And then we ask deaths per capita, what is the rolling mean over the last 7 days of new deaths? New deaths is already by population. This I don't think that line should be there. I'm dividing by population twice. Yeah, that's not what it's supposed to be. All right, cool. Caught a bug. So we run that. We've got the rolling average over a week, and then this scale turns that from some regular number that we can interpret in terms of X number of deaths per person, and this turns it into a Z-scale. Right, so if I do something like scale, I'll show you. If I do 1 to 10, I've just got the numbers from 1 to 10, and then if I scale 1 to 10, I'm going to say around an average of 5.5 with a standard deviation of about 3. This turns into negative 1.5, negative 1.15, and so on. Let's try it with 1 to 9. So here, the number's 1 to 9, the average is 5, so 5 gets exactly 0. It is 0 units away from average. 1, right, is our first number. That is about 1.5 standard deviations less than average in this data set of the numbers from 1 to 9, integers from 1 to 9. Cool. Run time series. Let's take another look at that. Oop. Time series, plot deaths. That looks better. I mean, in the sense that it's much less terrifying than it was at the beginning. And if we look at cases, that's the bad news, but cases where people don't die are better than cases where people do die. So that's nice. We got that going for us. So that's one type of graph you can draw with R. Heat map cases. Let's see, make sure I'm not missing any questions. All right. Heat map cases. Let's see if this is going to work. Data, this has to be cases. There we go. That's going till the 24th. That should be the 26th. I think it's just skipping some labels. And then we make the plot, that plot, the deaths plot, and then we should have updated stuff. Cool. So let's go back into our directory. Cool. So now, if you go to, oh, what's going on? There we go. Now, if you go to my GitHub, You should see eventually. Why is this not doing it? Origin master, this should be fine. There's a good push master origin. Now. Oh, it didn't commit properly. Let's just do it this way. Now, it should be updated. Cool, 14 seconds ago. So 390 students, you can go ahead and clone this if you'd like and play around with it and make your own modifications to this. But what we've got, that's not right. Let's go back to here. What we've got, heat map cases, heat map bar, heat map deaths. Add this. Deaths, didn't it do that? Oh, didn't fix that. There we go. Yeah, we'll have this updated. There we go. So here's the death data. Let's view the whole image. There we go. Oh, we got Puerto Rico here. So Arkansas, not doing so hot lately. New York, we're doing pretty well. Our absolute numbers are probably bigger than, someplace like Arkansas, but our numbers with the adjustments I made here are better. Right? We are away from our peak. We had just that one peak. Vermont, they kind of had a messier, longer stretch of period. Alaska, they had a peak, and then it looks like they've had a couple little flare-ups. West Virginia, they had their peak a little after we had ours. Idaho had theirs around the same time, and despite a bit of noise, basically doing a lot better than their peak, as long as the data's accurate and I didn't mess something up somewhere. Nor do we see some resurgences. Wyoming, that's a law of small numbers thing, right? So there, when you have a small state, you're going to have wild fluctuations anyways, because one person is like 10% of the population. Arkansas, there's Arizona still doing pretty bad. Delaware doing pretty bad. And this is deaths. This isn't just cases. Let's look at the cases. This stuff on the left, by the way, this is clustering the states. And that's a way to sort of algorithmically figure out which states look most similar to each other. So you can kind of see, let's see if I zoom out here, you can see that there's a cluster of states that look very similar, and you can see that they're on a separate branch than this cluster over here, which is pretty similar, which is a sub-branch of this larger cluster that looks fairly similar and kind of different than here, although really this looks kind of similar to this group. Here's a totally different group. This group, you can see there's Vermont. This is cases. So Vermont, initially had a big spike in cases, and then kind of a few other places had sort of that big spike followed by a relatively lower level. This group is the group of states who had a bunch of cases more recently. These states kind of had an early spike and then another resurgence. This group, again, looks kind of similar to this group. This is, the shortfall of algorithms sometimes. But that's some R, right? We made that graph with not too much code. Really, most of the hard stuff is about 15 lines to clean up the data and to put it in the right form, and then another few lines to generate this heat map. That's something you could hypothetically do in Excel, but it would take a lot more. All right, let's see. That's all fine. Let's go ahead and close some tabs. I'm just going to go ahead, and if no one's got any questions, work on a little research project I've been working on. This is an agent-based model I'm building in Python. And is this still doing the thing? All right, it says I'm still streaming. Might run into problems as we figure out technicalities. Should be fine. Oh, there we go. All right, I'm still streaming. This is more relevant for the 390 students. I am using a text editor here. This is my text editor. It's called Emacs. It's actually a variant of Emacs called Spacemacs. And what Spacemacs does is lets me use the power of Emacs, but uses a lot more of the features that go with another text editor called Vim. So Vim is a phenomenal text editor. And Emacs is a really powerful text editor, and when you put them together, you get the best of both worlds. So learning to use a really good text editor is something that computer programmers really take seriously because they're constantly dealing with text. So if you want to do what computer programmers do, it's really useful to use the sorts of tools that they use. So with this, we have things like we can fold functions, which will make it a little bit easier to see the structure of this model, which is really nice. It's highlighting the syntax, which is really useful. Emacs does all kinds of really cool stuff. I've been using Vim for more than a decade, so my muscle memory is sort of tied to using Vim. And using something like Vim, it just gives you, once you learn how to use it, you kind of become more fluid with text. Although I've kind of thrown myself a curveball by reprogramming my keyboard. So I'm kind of working uphill here. But you put in some investment, you get better, and over time, you get faster. All right. I'm going to stop yammering unless I see a question come up, and I'm just going to start coding away. All right. Let's see if I can get this running. Okay, that's good. Other thing. All right. Cool. So it's operating. It's not throwing errors. That is great. Int not callable. There's another cool thing with Emacs is I've got a browser in my text editor. I got an example. Mesa Python tutorial. Maybe that needs to be in quotes. less fluent in Python than I am in R. So you're going to be watching me struggle when I'm working on this project in office hours. I think it's just me watching, but if there is someone watching, feel free to ask questions. You can interrupt, it's fine. Got simple model in there. Maybe I don't have that anymore. Why is it showing up there? Schedule step. Trade plan. Oh, okay. Hey. Getting useful errors now. So plan. This is about the goods. Alright, that should be what I want. Hey, we're getting new errors. This is good. Deal. You know, I could do that. Oh, that's not what I want. Hey, hold on. What are you up to? Alright, so I got those trades. So a deal should be, we pull out some deal number. So just see. 45. All right, I can hang out for another 12 minutes. Good for Goose, good for Dan. So we got a deal. We pull out a deal number, which is going to be from that range, one number. The choice is based on these probabilities. It should be fine. Do trade. Find a partner. Set up some probabilities. Choose a deal number. So we just ran the model one step. That gave us this problem. None type and int. So I think well, 0 is an int. All right, so I got some sort of a problem with compare, I guess. I gotta check that. Oh, little girl. All right. You know what? Lola wants her afternoon thing. It's the first day of class. I think I might just quietly slip out 10 minutes early. So let's close here. If you're watching this last little bit, you'll be watching the recording. Feel free to drop any questions you've got in the class blog. Send me an email, all that good stuff. And I will talk to you guys in the future. And I'll be interacting with you guys on the class blog certainly tomorrow and the rest of this afternoon. With that, I'm going to go.